We're going to talk about campaign finance reform and how we can stop playing defense and go back on offense. It may seem as difficult as storming the Bastille, but it is possible. And here's how. Many people believe that public funding of elections will solve our problem, but experience has shown that more and more money is going through outside groups. Unless we can manage this spending, it will continue to overwhelm and corrupt the system. But how do we do it? For almost 40 years, reformers have had to deal with the landmark 1976 Supreme Court decision Buckley v. Valeo and a host of subsequent decisions, some good, some not so good. The Buckley decision is often boiled down to one simple statement: money equals speech. And there's the rub. For if money equals speech, then limiting the amount of money means limiting the right to speak, and limiting speech is unconstitutional. But here's the problem with that interpretation. The Supreme Court didn't say that. They didn't even mean that. Let's look at what they actually said. A restriction on the amount of money a person or group can spend reduces the quantity of expression because virtually every means of communicating ideas in today's mass society requires the expenditure of money. In other words, speech requires money. Now you might think there's no real difference between the two. After all, if speech requires money, then limiting money still limits speech. But wait, we're just getting started. The fun part is yet to come. Back in 1976, speech did indeed require money. If you wanted to reach out to a large group of people, you had several options. Television and radio ads, direct mail campaigns, handbills and flyers, newspaper ads, telephone banks. All of these options cost money, a lot of money. But there is one crucial difference between 1976 and now. Now we can say that speech required money. We have the World Wide Web. We have social media. All these outlets and more are free. You can tweet all you want, post videos on YouTube, and not pay a penny. It costs no more to reach 100 million people than it does to reach one person. But wait, is this really the same thing? Don't the new media outlets work differently from the old ones? After all, with the old media, you could reach out to the people. If you buy a television ad, then anyone watching the show who doesn't get up at the commercial break to go to the bathroom or get something to eat is going to see your ad. With new media, the people have to come to you. If they're not following you or searching for your videos, you're not going to reach them. In other words, the old media doesn't equal the new. Except, it turns out that the old media does equal the new. So says the U.S. Supreme Court. Here's what the court said. Any effort by the judiciary to decide which means of communications are to be preferred for the particular type of message and speaker would raise questions as to the court's own lawful authority. The old and new media are equal under the law, which means limiting money does not limit speech. This brings up an interesting question. Who said it? After all, Justice Anthony Kennedy and his band of merry men proved in the infamous Citizens United decision that they're perfectly willing to throw out old Supreme Court decisions they don't agree with in order to write one of their own. So it would be helpful to know which Supreme Court decision they want to throw out this time. And the winner is? That's right, it was Justice Anthony Kennedy in the Citizens United decision. Thanks to Citizens United, old media equals new media, and we can limit money without limiting speech. And now we have Citizens United versus Buckley. More importantly, Citizens United defeats Buckley. But before we can storm the Bastille, we need to remember that it is currently guarded by a Supreme Court whose majority won't let any real reform pass. We'll have to wait on a lot of reform until we have a Supreme Court that is more reasonable. In the meantime, there are two major areas we can focus on. The first is that we should not rely and need not rely on using the unintended consequence of the infamous Citizens United decision. Instead, we should relegate that to a supporting position behind the overriding push to combat corruption that results from big money in politics. The second is that we need to look at the big picture. There are lots of things that can be done that have nothing to do with public funding of elections or limiting spending. Many of these reforms can be enacted now. We'll tackle these two issues, in reverse order, in our next two videos.